Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Evolve or Die. My name is Nadav and I am a life coach specialized in relationships. This is actually the first time I'm publishing an episode in English. So for all of you Hebrew speakers, it's well worth listening. I have Dr. Tovah as my guest. Tovah has been a chiropractor for 41 years with the mission to help people heal from chronic pain. Tovah specializes in TMS, mind and body, stress illnesses, and psychological pain recovery, guiding her clients with approaches rooted in self-healing, nervous system safety, and neuroscience-backed insights. In 2019, she launched TMS Roundtable Recovery, a weekly English broadcast bringing together doctors, therapists, authors, filmmakers, and individuals sharing lived recovery stories, proof that healing is indeed possible, even when pain feels permanent. I was fortunate enough to be a guest on Tovah's show on her YouTube channel. In this episode, we'll talk about relationships, we'll talk about marriages, we'll talk about the powerful subconscious magnet that attracts certain people into our lives, only to teach us to feel comfortable with ourselves, to accept ourselves, and eventually to fall in love with ourselves in order for us to match that energy on the outside. Hi Tovah.
Shalom.
It's nice to have you on my show.
Ken, good to be here.
Thank you. This is actually the first episode I'm doing in English on my show.
Can we call it a Shehekianu?
Shehekianu לגמרי.
I like to be the pathfinder and to carve new roads, new pathways.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be that and to open it up for other amazing, other international voices.
So let's see how it goes because my audience is used to Hebrew.
Yeah.
We know each other for some time, a few years.
Yeah.
And we've done some things together, namely on your YouTube channel around chronic pain and the ability to attach the mental work around different aspects, if it's mindfulness or we're talking about the quantum field or we're talking about meditation. Tell us a bit about your own journey. Why do you want to look at fear?
Or how we use fear and anger and the other core emotions in our life to help us grow. Because usually when we're repressed or stuck, what we're finding even in the science is that our thoughts can hurt us and our thoughts can heal us. And our thoughts are usually created from our deeper emotions, fear, anger, the core emotions. They say that when they say core, they're the emotions that can potentially trigger, I'm downsizing this explanation, these core emotions, anger, fear, sadness, guilt, shame, and the anger can turn into rage, but it's a similar pattern. These are core emotions that they've studied can activate the amygdala to cause the brain to go into fight or flight.
Yeah, because before we started recording, you told me that you had a very rough childhood that brought you to look into those emotions as a grown-up and understand that you need to do something with them.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is the interesting thing, because as a therapist, we're both therapists, is what drives us to want to be the therapists who we are and to do what we do. And how does what we do heal us?
Yeah.
Because I always feel like I'm healing myself as I heal others. And I'm humble about that.
Yeah.
So we learn about big traumas and little traumas. And a lot of people you and I meet in our fields have really big T's. I don't know if my trauma in my life was a big T or a little T, but I will say
it's very subjective, so it doesn't
exactly.
matter. Yeah.
But I will now quote some science. There's something called adverse childhood experiences. Well, I watched my father be abusive with my mother, which was first, the big first trauma I had. And then my mother developed multiple sclerosis when I was 11.
How was it for you as a child to grow up in such an environment?
Yeah, and so I don't have a lot of memory of it. I have a memory of this first abuse experience. I watched it from a stairway, looking down the stairways and watching my parents beat up each other. And I watched my mother fight back, which was something I remembered. Yeah. She wasn't a victim, but she was fighting back, and I remembered that. What happened is no one came in to tell me everything was going to be okay. Yeah. And I went upstairs to my older brother, and I knocked on his door, and I said, Mom and Dad are fighting. And he said, go to sleep. And I went into the bathroom, and I threw up. It was my first physiological expression of, I got to get out of here. Yeah. And then there was more abuse that I don't remember seeing, but the neighbors told me. And then when I was 11, my mother got MS. They didn't tell anyone for 2 years. So when I was 13, as a teenager, becoming a young girl.
So the body feels that there's something wrong here, but no one tells me anything.
Nothing.
And there's this difference between what I feel and what I know.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself, because of all that stress in the house, becoming somewhat a peacemaker that doesn't really care about the internal weather?
I didn't feel that until I was much older, until my mom was handicapped and at home. Mm-hmm. But I do remember when I was 10 or 11, I used to go a lot. And my mother took me to a psychiatrist because she said, my daughter wants to speak. She's not expressing herself. And that postnasal drip is an expression. And I remember sitting in the psychiatrist's office. He had dandruff all over his jacket. And we played games. That's how he got me to talk. And later on, I found out that I had an issue with mold, and that was the postnasal drip, which is also an autoimmune response from the body, because I didn't grow up healthy, I think, because of the environment. Yeah. I grew up very unhealthy. I was not a healthy young girl. Yeah. But answer to your question, as I got older, being the only female with 3 other brothers, I was put upon in such a dysfunctional way that I was the girl, and I would take care of my crippled mother. Yeah. And that became enormous drama between my dad and I.
And where did you find your strength to oppose? Is that from seeing your mother put up a fight?
Good one. Good, Nadav. Very interesting. Well, I didn't like men.
Because the way you describe is an excellent formula to become very submissive.
Yeah.
Yet,
I was raised to be very submissive. I would ask my father to help me with something. I can think of 10 examples. Can you help me with my car? Can you help me with, I want to go to the bank and open up an account. Can you help me nail this picture on the wall? And each time he said, no, a man will do that for you. Mm-hmm. Each time, no, a man will help you. No, I'm not going to go to the bank with you. I'm not going to teach you. A man will help you. And even I would hear it from my mother. I remember, and I'll say this very honestly and openly, I remember leaning over the car. I didn't wear a seatbelt. It was a station wagon, an old Ford station wagon. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And I leaned over the car and I said, Mom, I think my breasts are too big. I was like 12 or 13, maybe 14. She said, oh, no, men like them that way. And I thought years later, but God made these amazing parts of the body for a woman that breastfeed, and they're sensitive and they're beautiful. And why didn't she tell me that? Yeah. So I saw the pattern, even from my mom and my dad, that I'm nothing without a man. I'm no one. I'm nothing. I'm nowhere.
They actually replaced God with men.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely. So that was also the pattern. So watching the physical abuse and then the emotional abuse that I somehow, through not being communicated to, and of course my parents did the best they could. They came from, I don't even want to go there. My mother was with a mother from Russia who never told her she was smart. My mother wanted to go to college, and my grandmother said, no, because you're a girl. Yeah. So, of course, it was passed down.
You have to be in the kitchen. Yeah. And this is the same thing you absorbed. You need to raise kids and be in the kitchen. That's it. And I guess you had some idea about what men are like. Probably wherever you go, men are fitting this description that I have in my mind. What made you even go into relationships?
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating because I thought, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to date. I'm not interested. And what happened was the complete opposite, because I needed so much attention. I was so empty. I was such an empty vessel growing up because my mother was not an affectionate person. My father was even a little bit more affectionate with like a hug, or maybe we'd watch TV together with my brothers. My mother was not affectionate at all. Didn't have any kind of intimate ways of being with me. I don't remember a whole lot. Mm-hmm. She didn't even have a thermometer in the house. So even if I was sick, there wasn't like, go take your temperature, which is interesting how we grew up by how our parents dealt with pain or sickness. Yeah. In answer to your question, Nadav, I ran to every man from the age 16 and didn't stop. I ran into every bed. I ran into every set of arms.
Now, looking back, what was there for you to gain from this pattern that you had?
A temporary feeling of safety.
Someone loves me?
Yeah, a temporary feeling of safety, because I gave all my power away as I watched my mother. My mother also, as she was sick in a wheelchair, she was very strong in many ways. She would volunteer, but she started to have affairs with other men. And at some point in college, she wanted to divorce my father, and she told me to come home. I'm going to divorce your father. I have a boyfriend. And she took me to meet her boyfriend, which some therapists say is kind of incestual.
Yeah.
And then my dad called me and said, your mother's going to leave me. I don't want her to. And this became another trauma bond that wasn't healthy. And then my mother ended up not leaving my father. And then I found out years later the affair didn't work out because this particular gentleman stole money from my mom. And that actually happened to me in a marriage. So I saw the pattern set up because no one helped me along the way to say, yes, this is dysfunctional. Yes, I'm messing up, but here's what you need to do. And that's what I did with my daughters. That's why they're healthy.
So in that particular environment, which was probably very unhealthy and very stressful, one day you decide to become a doctor?
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
Very good. So I thank my father and mother, who were not educated. My father was like a salesman, but he had a lot of drive. And he was actually a little bit of a white-collar criminal. He kind of got away with a lot of stuff with, taxes, white-collar stuff. Like he would, not pay his taxes. But like I think he felt with his sick wife, the world owes me. Mm. Like I have a wife that's handicapped.
Yeah, I paid enough.
Yeah, that's the way he felt. And I understood that.
Yeah.
So there was a drive that they both gave me, which I'm very grateful for. And this is where you find the gift even in
the darkest places.
Even diving into dog poop, you come out and find some gift. I need to tell this little story because I think it'll.
What came to my mind is a mushroom growing out of the dog poop.
Right. I say that I'm a flower that grew out of a pot of shit, but I blossomed. But there's a story that I heard where there was this grandmother with a set of twin grandsons, and she thought one was really negative and one was really positive. She's like, I'm going to try to get the one grandson to be a little bit more optimistic and the other pessimistic grandson to be the opposite. I'm going to balance each other out. And so she took the two grandsons, the two twins, took them into a big room of horse manure. Oh. And she said, boys, find a gift. Go for it. So the negative grandson starts digging and digging and says, Grandmom, Softa, I can't, get me out of here. This is horrible. It smells. I can't do it. She's like, keep digging, keep digging. He's like, I can't. It's poop. It's manure. Take me out of here. She pulls him out. The optimistic one is digging. Softa, I'm digging. Grandmom, I'm digging here. If there's all this horse shit, there must be a pony in here somewhere. And I think I felt like my mother was always very optimistic, even in her trauma and drama. She always had a smile on her face. And I must have got something, even though she wasn't a strong role model for me. Yeah. I took what I could from both of them. And there was some connection with watching this beautiful lady, go from like a brace on her leg to like a walker where she was walking. And then my dad put handbrakes in the car so she could still drive because one leg was not working. And then she was like in a wheelchair, which she would push. And then all of a sudden she's lying on the couch. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden nothing's moving but her eyes are blinking, but she's still in that head. And you're watching this person become a vegetable and you're thinking, please, she needs to die. Yeah. This is not a life. and there was a lot of drama and trauma around me being the only girl and being with her. And when am I coming to be with her? And then my father would call me and say, when are you coming to spend time with her? And it would be very hard. I would leave there with migraine headaches. Yeah. And the problem is she would be like, go live your life. And he'd be like, come back. It was that interesting dynamics in my life. Like, he needed me for him, my father. My mother didn't really need me.
So would you say that because of all the physical hardships in the house, that drove you to become someone who wants to fix bodies of other people?
I'm not sure where it came from, because what happened was interesting. I mean, here I am in Israel, but I went to college, which my dad, got the money to go to college, even though some of the money might have been hot.
How did you convince him that you do need to go to college and not sit in the kitchen or with your mom or cook?
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't remember exactly the details, but I dropped out of college after 3 years and traveled to Israel because I wanted to prove to my older brother, and I put a backpack on me and I got on a plane and went to a kibbutz in the north, and I felt like it rearranged my neshama being here and living on a kibbutz in the north. And I don't know, I lost some weight. I was really involved with the volunteers, and I was going to study Hebrew. I remember I was going to study Hebrew. I would have known Hebrew by now. And after 4 months, I called my father and said, I'm staying 6 more months for an Ulpan, and I'm going to work here. And he flipped out. He said, you got to come home and be with your mother. Yeah. And I thought, I got to go face this part of me that's letting this particular man run my life. And I left Israel, and I came back to America, and I moved out of the house, and it really flipped him out.
Yeah.
Like, I started to rebel. So there was something in me felt brave, like I would face my own fears. And he literally kicked me out of the house and put me on the lawn and took everything he had ever given to me, which was just so immature. But anyway, my mother was like, go. And I moved out of the house, and I started working in a restaurant, and I was biking, and I fell off the bike, and I had an injury, and I went to see a chiropractor, and I had no idea what the chiropractor was. It was like, what's chiropractic? I remember going in the back of this restaurant, and I put a quarter in the phone machine back then to call this doctor. And he said, I'll see you tonight, come to my office. And I said, tell me what chiropractic is. Can you help me? I hurt my shoulder. I fell, and he said, sure, let's talk. Long story short, his assistant was going off to chiropractic school, and he said, do you want to work for me? So I think this was karmic.
Yeah.
There was something in me that was searching. I'd gone to Israel. I dropped out of college. I had all these majors. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was confused. And I believe in God. I believe God put me in this place. I met this chiropractor. I worked for him for 3 years, and then I was in chiropractic school. But I want to say something about spirituality because, I grew up and I watched blue-collar parents, fight for the next dime and the next quarter. And my dad was like a struggling salesman, and my mom was crippled, and I had no identity. I was searching for the guru. I was into Jesus, Nadav. I was into Messianic Judaism. I was into a Indian guru named, I forget his name. He was a fat little Indian guru who was giving knowledge. If you go to this big ashram in the suburbs of Philadelphia, I was getting this knowledge and
satsang.
Yeah, and I was like searching and searching.
So anything from the outside that can help me feel the inside, because I never stopped to ponder, to search within, because I was not important.
Myself was not an option.
Yeah.
So it was the guru, it was the Jesus, it was the next guy I was going to sleep with.
Yeah.
I'm saying that because I didn't find Israel or Judaism or Torah or history, which I'm not religious now, but I love the history and my culture and my identity of being Jewish.
Yeah.
And I made Aliyah in my 50s with the daughter I was raising by myself. And I felt like I had an identity. I had a purpose, I had meaning. I didn't give a shit about George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, but I kind of cared about David Ben-Gurion doing his headstand and what was going on there, with Moshe Feldenkrais in that picture.
Yeah.
So I want to just say how important it was for me to have an identity, and I didn't have one, and my parents didn't know to give me one. And I kept trying to find myself in other people's lives. I kept looking into their lives as a spectator and wanting to be them. I was like a chameleon, but I kept going forward, and I think that's why I didn't fall on my face. And, I was able to get up each time. And I was authentic in my being lost.
You allowed yourself to be entirely lost in order to reach some very low point, the dog manure or whatever. You could find a purpose, but that purpose has to be internal. You're talking about the Jews in Israel, but that has to be something internal, that particular purpose that then starts to create your inner world. Now, here is something that I hold as extremely important to me, and I start flourishing from that point on.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point, because all these years, I made Aliyah when I was 52. I'm now 68. I don't believe I was fully in myself till even after I moved here for a couple of years. But when I moved here, I knew I had a paradigm shift, because I was so fearful of so many things in my life, and so temporarily getting fixed by the next boyfriend, or my work was very satisfying as a chiropractor.
Yeah, so let me ask you about that, because once you're finished with your schooling and you go back home, and you have the diploma and you say, Dad, look, I'm a doctor now.
Right.
What does he do with that? Is he flipping?
Right.
Is he proud, happy, angry? What happens there?
He was the kind of father that would go to the supermarket and talk to the cashier about how proud he was of his daughter,
Was that healing for you in some way?
I started to understand him, because in my 40s, my mom died when I was in my 30s. She had the disease for about 25 years and then finally passed away, and it wasn't painful, but it was just, we were happy that she finally died. My father got remarried to a decent woman who was a strong woman, and she would say to me, I wonder why your father treats your brothers like they're Jesus Christ and you're like a doormat. I'm wondering why. So even in my 40s, it was an apparent, this was who my dad was. And so I began to understand, to stop needing his attention, and realizing what I was doing with the men in my life. And I had 3 marriages, and I come by them very honestly.
So even though you're a doctor, you pursued your career, you're doing well, you still find those patterns from your childhood reappearing in your marriages.
Right.
And you marry the first one, you marry the second one. When's the time you're telling yourself never again?
Right.
Is there such a time, or you keep hoping that the next one will be better, the next one will be more accurate for me?
Well, going back to the chiropractic, I felt I had a healthy relationship. So I didn't have a healthy relationship with God. I didn't have a healthy relationship with my body at that time. I was losing weight, gaining weight. I was exercising a bit. I wasn't so in touch with my physical body. I was healthy. I had no diseases. I was strong in my immune system. Though I felt that I was healthy with my work. Mm-hmm. I loved healing. There was something very satisfying. And I think that was a stable pillar for me, that I could get up and help people heal through chiropractic, which is a phenomenal philosophy. I won't go into it, but it's very philosophical about your innate intelligence. Your heart's ticking, your stomach's digesting. You're not telling it what to do. There's a nervous system. There's an innate intelligence connected to universal intelligence, which at that point was kind of like divine or God or quantum. So this was my chiropractic education. It was a phenomenal education. So I felt the stable pillar was my work. But I was not connected to myself intimately, physiologically, neurologically, like spiritually. I wasn't connected.
Yeah. So to bring over to your relationship this energy where you're not connected cannot produce a healthy relationship.
No. So I kept attracting my dad.
Yeah.
I attracted my dad in 2 opposite marriages. My first husband was a great guy. He was a lot older than me. We were chiropractors together in the office, and we got divorced and continued to work together in the office for 10 more years. Wow. It was a very healthy divorce. We had a daughter who's here in Israel with me and her family. But I married a very controlling, passive-aggressive, decent person. I was bored.
Yeah.
And I couldn't grow. He was too paternal. And that way, we were very different. I was flying out of my body. I was like Israel, life, this, that. I was like always finding new ideas. There was something about me that was, there's a pony in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So I thank my mom for that in a way. So I got out of this marriage and I felt very free. But then the next couple of years, I went into the abyss, the darkest place that I could ever have gone. What I realized was, wait a minute, I attracted these men in my life. Mm-hmm. I drew them, who I was and where I was at, whether it was low, medium, or high, attracted that kind of person to me. So I'm responsible for that relationship. However it comes down and however it begins, middles, and ends, I'm responsible. And that gave me a lot of power and strength.
Yeah, to understand that this is not happening to me, that I'm a part of actually creating a reality.
Yeah, it was and I didn't understand the quantum or any of Bruce Lipton or Joe Dispenza's philosophies then. I was reading Krishnamurti, I was reading other things back then, the art of Zen motorcycle stuff. My brother would, I knew there was something, and I was still searching because I hadn't come to Israel yet with the second marriage. But I met a brilliant man who was a French from Marseille. Anyway, it's a Hollywood movie because I was literally married to James Bond. I was married to Darth Vader. I was married to a very, very brilliant man, a sociopath. We know some politicians that are like that on both sides.
Was there violence?
Right, left, and middle. And there was beyond violence. And I never thought I'd ever let any man ever touch me.
Yeah. Did you find yourself?
I also fought back. Nadav, it was so scary to meet myself in that place.
Yeah.
Because I'm so against any man ever.
Because you found that you had the strength and the will. At the same time, there's poison running through my body, and this is something I do not want to do ever again.
Yeah, and I want to say that any man who ever hits a woman is so weak.
Yeah.
And I think I thought for a second this is a strength, like he's stronger than me. I sat back years later, I saw how weak. Yeah. And I even understood about my father, which is because I spoke with my brother years later about it. I understood something about my father, how, look, a woman can push a man to the edge,
Yeah, but it's up to him to deal with his own emotions, These people that usually turn to violence, it's too much for them to bear. And this is the work they need to do.
Yeah, beyond. And the few times it happened, this man would run to my father. It was kind of another incestual thing.
Their brotherhood.
Yeah, and my father wouldn't protect me. Like I saw that happen. I remember that happening.
They're the same.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And
so you found that strength within you to fight back, which is extremely important. Yeah. But then you realize that you want to break this pattern, right? This is something I had enough of. I need to find a way to fix something internally in order for me to start facing other realities awaiting.
No, very good way to explain it. And I stayed in this very destructive, emotionally destructive, like no intimacy, but so much sexuality, but no intimacy, which was even sucking my energy even more. Like I was a receptacle. So there was nothing about my feminism, but there was something drawing me to him that I knew was dysfunctional. He was an orphan. I was kind of an orphan. And I was working out some tikkun. And I kept wanting to leave. I wanted to leave every day. And I say that I felt like a kiva being flayed alive. I knew I was dying in this marriage. And then something happened and I decided to leave. And it was very, very powerful. And then he left and we never saw him again. Wow. That's why it was kind of like a James Bond. Yeah. Like he climbed out the window, like down the sheet, and that's how he would act. He tried to be in the Mossad. They loved him. They thought he was brilliant, but they said, you know what, you're a bit too crazy. We cannot hire you. Yeah. So he worked in security for many years. But he left, and we never saw him again. I did see him years later, and I got to get, which is another whole episode. How I saw him in the Beit Din.
And for you, was that already a good time where you're ripe to start digging in, to start utilizing spiritual or mental methods on top of the physical ones you already know?
Well, what happened was we'd had a daughter. I was 40 and we had a child, and I thought that might heal things, but it didn't. So our daughter was 2 and he left. So I couldn't get a chance to grow because I was confronted with my greatest fear,
Which
raising
was
a child on my own.
on your own.
And royally fucking her up. Like, how can I do this? I mean, I barely raised my first daughter, but I was co-parenting with my first husband, and we thought she's going to be okay. We did a decent job. But now I'm really messed up. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I mention that because what I believe helped me was that was a huge fear.
Yeah.
And then I decided to make Aliyah, which was the greatest fear I ever overcame. And I say that because now in my work, I work with people in pain. A lot of it's about fear and the fear-pain cycle. And I realized that I took my fear and I used it to propel me, not paralyze me. I felt the fear.
Fear is actually a tool.
Exactly.
But once we start fearing fear, we start building on top of it, then it no longer acts as a tool and starts acting as something that paralyzes us.
Exactly. So I believe that I would have by now had fibromyalgia. I would have now my little mold problem would have been full-blown mold issues.
Yeah.
But I had channeled and moved energy in my physical body through the decision at 52 to take my 10-year-old daughter, who I thought I'm really going to mess her up in America. And I came to Israel on a pilot trip to visit my older daughter who was here after high school. And I thought, this is the place to raise a child. This is where I can stop being a spectator of my own life and be in my life. This is where I will have an identity, and my daughters both will know where to choose, who to choose, because they'll have a foundation. And I love Israel for that.
So do you think you had this ability from your mom to stand up again and again and again in your different phases of life? And the same thing happened once you found yourself with your child at the age of 2, and then there's my biggest fear, but I need to stand up once again and do something? Is that...
You know how they say, like, fall and get up, fall 8 times and get up 9?
Yeah.
I also was motivated, and I tell clients this: you got to put a carrot in front of you. How bad do you want to be well? How bad do you want to play with your grandchildren? How bad do you want to go out for a walk without pain? Because that becomes your medicine. I had a vision, I had a dream. I'd already at this point had 2 marriages that I rather than call them failed, but that were not for me. They were soulmates, but that were not
tough teachers.
They were not I wasn't going to be buried with these gentlemen, and I tried to be responsible for my decisions in my marriages and not blame them. I didn't ever want to be a victim or that kind of ex-wife.
So for you to have that very big fear, but serve as a tool, how did you utilize that fear as a tool when you decided to make Aliyah to Israel?
Well, I was petrified, but I was driven and motivated by the life in Israel, by meeting my Bashir, because I came here and I began dating all over again. But I was driven, like I was dreaming. The little girl had a fantasy. She wanted a fairy tale. She wanted a Bashir. I'd gotten a little involved with Chabad and Aish Torah, so I was learning a lot about, I love that parts of Torah and Judaism and Moses and Jacob and his wives and whatever. Aish Torah and Kiruv, and I was meeting some really cool rabbis in the old city, Yom Tov Glazer, the surfing rabbi, and I was really feeling alive. And I had a vision that I could be happy with a man. I was going to prove to myself that I wasn't my mom.
This time it's going to work. I
was driven. I had a passion, and I was motivated by a dream. And I felt like I wanted to be a good role model for my daughters, because I didn't think my mom was one for me. And I had an opportunity to be a better role model for my daughters. So that was driving me. And I was really happy to be doing chiropractic here. I was teaching in the water. I was coming out of just the chiropractic. I wasn't yet so involved in the neuroplastic world yet, or I hadn't met the John Sarno world at that point when I made Aliyah. But I was so happy to be here. I felt so free. And I had really overcome the greatest fear of my life, which was coming out of my comfort zone, leaving a very comfortable, dysfunctional world, having security in Philadelphia, having a chiropractic practice, speaking the language. So I was really here naked, kind of like naked with my
Starting
clothes
all
on.
over again.
Yeah. And I had a couple tough years with my daughter, raising her here. And I moved to Naklaot in the center, lived around Machane and Yehuda, and dove into dating, which I wish I hadn't done that, but it still was giving me that fix. I was addicted.
Yeah.
I was addicted to love. It's a great song, Robert Palmer, Addicted to Love. And we can be addicted to many things besides drugs and, marijuana. Be addicted to love, be addicted to anger, be addicted to shame. We learned that.
So you still felt that lack of love that needs to come from the outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was alone here. I was alone, living alone, and it was really powerful for me to be living alone here. I had some money from an inheritance, so I felt like I had it a little easier.
Mm-hmm. And then you met your third husband.
And then I was single for a couple of years, and then I dated someone and had another completely dysfunctional marriage. And the interesting thing for the listeners is that I was single for 15 years from leaving America and then coming here. So I had 15 years of being not married. Yeah. And I thought, I'm ready. I worked on myself. I did enough therapy. I went to the hotel and prayed. I'm raising a daughter. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But I hadn't met myself yet. And I attracted a similar weak man that I thought would be the piece to my puzzle. And it just woke me the fuck up. And
so when you say weak, you mean physical or mental? Or?
Well, what do you mean?
You said a weak man.
Emotionally. Yeah, like I attracted this simple man who I thought was going to give me what I needed. Like I wanted a family, I wanted a mom, a dad, an old Volvo, a white picket fence.
It's probably not going to pose any risk.
Yeah. I wanted my house is a very, very, very nice house with 2 cats in the yard. Yeah. It used to be so hard. Yeah. Now life is, and I attracted another passive-aggressive, authoritative, weak man who I thought would take care of me and my daughter, because I didn't think I could do that. Yeah. And I didn't acknowledge my strength and my power and what I had been through. I was so ashamed of the first 2 marriages. And I did some counseling and did some therapy, and I realized that, a lot of women would say to me, well, how brave were you to leave a marriage that wasn't working? How brave were you to work with an ex-husband?
And to make aliyah.
Yeah. And I never acknowledged that. No, I'm a loser. I got a ball and chain. No. Yeah. So it took a lot more therapy and a lot more self-reflection. It took me almost really messing up my daughter with that 3rd marriage to being alone for the next 8 years and finding an amazing part of my career, which is the neuroplastic John Sarno work. It's such a beautiful way to help people find themselves through pain and disease, because they are our teachers. And my daughter became a musician, expressing her pain and sorrow through music, and, holes in her Swiss cheese, because she never knew her dad. Yeah. She never knew him at all.
So for you, being again single, did you then go into this practice of self-love?
I think I didn't understand what self-love is. Okay. It's funny because I counsel people on how we love ourselves and how we love our body might feel broken. How do we love a body that's expressing symptoms? We cannot heal a body we hate. Yeah, definitely. So I believe that even in the best upbringing, I meet people who have really decent upbringings, but we don't come into adulthood knowing how to love ourselves truly. We know how to love another. I loved my patients. My kids, excuse me for loving my patients more than them. I'm a great doctor. I'm a great healer. I'm a great maternal instinct to my clients. And now, even as a grandmother, I'm doing it better. I'm getting to practice loving others, because it's a lifelong job. But to love oneself, I had to ask someone. I asked a top psychologist, somebody I interviewed, an ISTDP top psychologist from America, wonderful, brilliant woman. And I said, how do we know how to love ourselves? And I was waiting for some big answer. Yeah,
and the answer is simple.
Doc Tovah, she said, you know how you love a baby or a puppy or a cat? And I thought, I don't even think I did that in the way that I needed to back when I had the opportunity. Yeah. So I have to relearn that as we speak.
Yeah.
And many people that you and I meet in our practice, we look good. We look like we're loving ourselves. I mean, I'm in the best shape at 68 of my life. I can probably do more push-ups than you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I love and truly radically accept myself and radically believe in myself and radically honor myself and love even the parts of me I don't love.
Yeah.
I say to people, you need to love the part of you even hate. That's unconditional love.
True.
So I learned that only in my 60s, how to truly love and accept and honor my past and be proud of it and take that shame, because I carried a ball and shame with me. I mean, married 3 times, what the hell's wrong with you? What's your problem? And then I would say, well, these men were my soulmates, and I would be proud of them, and I would even honor even the father of my daughter, who was a terrible human being.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he was a player in my tikkun. And I think it was for him that I got to Israel, because he brought me to Israel. We had a life in Israel. And so I feel very grateful. And I think for me, this is the way that I believe healing works for me, that I need to look at my past and honor it and honor the people. I don't need to go back there and beat up my husband or put an arrow through his heart. I don't need that to work on my...
Because once we acknowledge that all these people in our lives, especially those involved in the extremely worst situations in our lives, they're our greatest teachers, and we signed some form of a contract that says, I'm going to help you learn really important stuff, and the lesson is going to be really, really hard. Are you willing to play with me? And you said, yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the service. Now, once we start looking at it this way, then it's much easier to be thankful, as I learned to eventually, it took me time to thank my ex-wife for helping me wake up.
Wow.
Yeah. That's one aspect. The other aspect is to start taking out of the shadows your own internal parts that create your personality, and start working with those as well. And we say self-love, self-love. First thing is acceptance. I accept that God and Satan, both of them exist within me. And it's perfectly fine. In order for me to have light, I need to have this light lean on darkness. Must have both of them inside.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. And then I start with the acceptance of all the many different parts within me.
Yeah. It's interesting about the parts. And I want to go back to what the doctor of psychology said about loving a child and a puppy, because what that also means is to be very gentle and compassionate, and to be very patient. I imagine you also meet people that we get where we want to go by being hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
We move forward by pushing, and that works in many parts of our life. But it's not easy to be intimate with your clothes on. And I say that over and over again. And it's actually a book, you know, Rabbi Manis Friedman, the big Chabad rabbi, he writes a book called, you know, We Don't Blush Anymore. And there's an intimacy with oneself that we don't learn even through the most amazing sensuality with the most amazing partner. We don't learn a type of an intimacy with oneself. It not only allows you to be alone and feel safe, and we talked about that, you know, in our broadcast, being under threat, but how to be alone with your thoughts. I mean, I couldn't be with myself.
And some people are so scared of being alone with their thoughts, they need to run to someone else, or to have their life look like a circus. There should be a lot of noise around in order for me not to hear my own thoughts.
100%.
Yeah.
And then about the thoughts, the lies we tell ourselves, and also about our unconscious thoughts. So, you know, in your work and my work, our job is to bridge the conscious mind to the unconscious mind. And I think for many people, the healing begins when we know what our unconscious mind is doing, and it might not be pretty.
Yeah.
And it might not be attractive. And that's the part, like, how can I love even the part of me that was so insecure and such a leech as I grew up and wanted to be, and so jealous of so many people, was so jealous of women and their lives, and that kept me stuck in a victim. I was such a victim for so many years and had to climb out of a place that I put myself in.
Now, when we're older and wiser, to reframe the entire thing, in certain periods of our lives, because we were lacking the tools and maybe the energy and maybe the beliefs and so on, we built a certain strategy that promised we survive. Okay, for different periods in our lives, there's a strategy, being a leech, you said, that was 100% successful solution to remain alive.
Survival.
Yeah.
That's how a leech survives.
Yeah. And once I realized that this was a force built from scrap, because I didn't have the know-how, I didn't have the techniques I'm using today, and that strategy worked fine. Here I am, alive. Otherwise, I would probably have been dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And to be thankful to that. Yeah. To acknowledge that. And this is just another way to start loving yourself, yeah? To go into acceptance, a very simple acceptance of things happened the way they did because they could not have happened in any other way.
No, right.
Yeah, these were the ingredients in my fridge.
Right.
That's it.
Right. And the concept that you and I talk about, because I'm so in all of your podcast, and you named it Evolve or Die, and I learned a lot from you. And we met years ago.
The name.
I love the name, and yeah. You can ask my clients, and it's mentioned on lots of my TMS roundtables. And I love that your connection to some of the quantum work and the Joe Dispenza work that you translated the books.
So actually, Evolve or Die, you could take it all the way to the end and have this as a real death when people don't do their self-work, and then there's disease and so on. But you could look at a minor death, which says, if I'm stuck in a place, I'm not able to live fully. The version of me that's currently manifested in the world is a very tiny, weak version of myself. So in a way, I'm dead, alive and dead. And once I start moving and evolving and developing my abilities, my mental health, my skills, then I am alive.
Yeah. Well, I want to reframe that in a different way, but that's a beautiful explanation. But it made me think about a therapeutic process. I was in my 40s and I did some therapy with a counselor. She was actually a lawyer who was a marriage counselor, working on relationships. Mm-hmm. And she taught me, and this is how we can help some people who are stuck, because they don't have to become 68 to get free. I don't want people to feel like they have their own karmic road they take, their path, but they can learn earlier than me and you from what their pain is teaching them now, from what their autoimmune disease or their tumor is teaching them now. So at some point, this amazing therapist said, you don't have to live in survival mode anymore. You're excellent at it. You did a great job. That part of you did a great job. Thank God. It kept picking you up. Yeah. After being knocked down, you kept saying, well, thank you for that. I think I'll get up and clean up the blood and move on. So that was my evolution. Mm-hmm. To come from victimhood to still having one foot playing a victim, but kind of reaching out to how does it feel to be in control by a letting go and loving process? So for anyone listening that might relate to, we're all good at survival. You're excellent at it. But let's get good at being stable. Let's be good at coasting. Let's be good at being uncomfortable in a new comfort zone and realizing that uncomfortable feeling is maybe your pain or your autoimmune symptom, and just be with it. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're broken. It means it just doesn't feel comfortable. And at some point that will become the new habit. And that may be the new you. Showing up for yourself, feeling really uncomfortable, but practicing this new neural pathway, which is part of the neuroplasticity. So I love the concept of, and so many people in my work, Nadav, are stuck. Yeah. Because their ego, and they cannot move from a place in their characteristic to evolve. It's too scary. They'd rather stay stuck in the addiction.
It's the ego, it's the fears, it's the beliefs. So taking that into your life again, now you have an amazing relationship.
Unfucking believable.
And looking at the patterns that took you from the first one to the second one to the third one. What broke there?
Yeah.
What happened to the patterns that you broke your habit of being yourself?
Yeah. You know what? It's very important. I didn't give up hope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's a biology of belief that, you know, Bruce Lipton talks about. There's a chemical reaction with gratitude. There's a chemical change when we're grateful. Belief changes the way that your blood flows, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't going to give up.
Yeah, but a part of it is that I deserve more.
Ken?
How did you come to deserve more?
So there's my ego working for me. I kept taking care of myself. I kept feeling good about myself. I kept going to the gym. It doesn't mean I'm a workout freak. I don't love going to the gym, but I don't want to, you know, I'm doing it because I feel good. I want to age gracefully. I want to be healthy. I find having a spiritual connection to God was very important for me. And anyone that I've met on my broadcast that I've healed, everything from MS to cancer to tumors, gigantic, chronic pain, the people that had God in their life or some divine inspiration or a divine being, their healing was deeper and more effective. And I have to say that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't heal without God, but it helped me to believe in God and partner with God. So I kept at it. I was determined. I was relentless.
Yeah.
I think my podcast will be relentless or die. You know, relentless, evolve. I kept, you know, I knew, and I think for me, the fear followed me my whole life because fear doesn't go away.
Yeah.
We have a relationship with it, and my fear of being alone didn't go away, Nadav. I had a different relationship with being alone. It was still scary. I still spent so many nights literally alone. I still didn't go out a lot. I still wasn't involved. You know, I was still a little bit jealous that person was with this person. But I kept healing that wound. I still feel alone. You can feel alone even with the best person in your life because alone is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's an expression of a part of your body. It's a feeling I'll always have from a childhood that was lonely, but doesn't have to hurt me or cause any autoimmune symptoms or feel bad. It just feels what it feels.
Yeah, I can feel alone without the risk of dying.
Yes. I mean, I think you might be going through a little bit that yourself, you know, and that we can use our feelings, like I don't call them negative emotions, they're emotions.
Yeah.
And
they can either drive us or freeze us. Eventually, we're the ones deciding.
That's it. And how do we have a relationship? I mean, this is the greatest healing remedy. How do we have a relationship with all of our emotions in a healthy way and invite them in because they're part of us?
Once you started dating this new guy, did you immediately realize that it's different now?
Yeah.
I broke it.
Well, like I said, in answer to your original question, like I didn't think stopping dating was going to help. I thought dating is important. Relationships are mirrors for you. Let me keep mirroring myself with, I want to be with a man. I want to be healthy with a man. So at this point, I was healthy with God. My body was strong and healthy. My daughters, thank you, universe and God. Healthy with my family, healthy with my work. I thought, I'm ready to be healthy with a man, which is my greatest fear.
Yeah.
I've seen the opposite of all that happening growing up. I still believed, I knew marriages that were working, that were healthy. I knew divorces that were healthy. I think people are healthy. And I was becoming healthy with myself. And I thought, I'm going to keep dating. And I went off and on the sites. I also did some dating coaching. I did a lot of mirroring and talking. I believe in therapeutic process.
Yeah.
I couldn't be objective on myself. I came to terms with that I'm okay on my own. If I have to be in a relationship that I'm not satisfied or it's not an asset for me or I'm not an asset for him, I don't want to be with that person. And I had sold my soul 1,000 times before this. Yeah. So I didn't want to sell my soul to anyone for love because it wasn't about love.
And that's a major change.
Yeah, and so I was okay to be alone, and I think that was it. That's like the quantum concept of try to behave the way you want to be. So I say to people who are symptomatic, like mental rehearse yourself going out for a walk, mental rehearse, envision, law of attraction, yourself attracting to you who you want to be. Act the person who you want to be like, who you want to attract in your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's one of Dispenza's
in
theory.
the Kabbalah, they say that once you're torn from God, you have this longing for God.
Wow, like the vessel.
And then you replace that longing with a longing to a person.
Wow.
And then you expect that person to fill up all the wounds or pain or holes you have within you, while your true journey is to reconnect with God and actually connect with the God that's inside, not outside, and start healing yourself. And then when you approach your partner from a whole place, and that relationship looks completely different.
First of all, that was beautiful, and I love Kabbalah, and I love that. And I think we've mentioned Kabbalah before, and so I love the connection to the depth of Jewish mysticism. And I never would have ever believed what a healthy relationship was like. I dreamed about it. I wrote about it. I journaled about it. You know, I fantasized about it, but it's not in the movies. It's possible. It's just what's possible. And I never would have known me in a healthy relationship. So I'm such a different human being now.
Yeah.
And yet I'm still me. That's why when we talk about evolution or evolving,
the old
you're not
me
losing.
is not going away. Yeah.
You take it with you.
Yeah, you have to.
Right.
You have to, because that's the foundation for you to build on top. If you take out the foundations, then it all collapses.
Wow. Yeah.
And there is no empathy, and there is no wisdom, there is no...
No, absolutely. I mean...
Yeah.
I would have never, ever in a million years dreamed up what I'm living now. Yeah. And I'm in my game. I'm a main character. I'm not watching or observing.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so grateful and I'm so aware. And I think the relationships that work, and you might know this as a relationship coach and all the work you've done and your beautiful cards and all, it's an awareness and an acceptance and a gratefulness that you have to have with yourself first in order to, and then you work it out in the synergetic level with a partner, because there's you, there's him, and then there's the relationship. There's three things always working.
Yeah.
But you feel the partnership, that you did it with yourself, and now I'm going to practice it because I really want to do it with someone else because there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, because if I don't do it with myself, what I bring into a relationship is a costume, and that costume is playing with the other side, and these two costumes are playing together, and we're sitting in there, and we get so tired of putting on those costumes.
Wow.
It's so tiring.
Wow.
It's not us, you know?
Wow.
This is why it's extremely important to first be authentic with oneself, to get to know you better in order for you to speak you better to the other side.
Wow, yeah. I'm a bit speechless.
Speechless.
Believe it or not.
Last advice you want to give our audience, looking at your life and the place you're in currently?
Well, I think we touched on it about we don't get rid of fear.
Mm-hmm.
We have to see it as a friend, and how do we use it to serve us, to propel us? And hopefully in your life, you will never need it in real life under threat. There's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's someone might say, yeah, right, doc, sure. And I'm like, but that helps me to make fear your friend, to see it as you created this, and it's a protective mechanism. That's okay. You can protect yourself, but you can't, it's also a block. So I think it's how we use fear in our life, but it's a relationship. And how do we want to have a healthy relationship with fear and put it into perspective when we need it? I would like to hear what you have to say about fear.
Just working on taking off the mental part that's on top of the real fear. I think that's very important, because once we take that off, we manage to look at fear as a tool. And that tool tells us, look, there's a chance that this and this and this will happen. Please be prepared. Do whatever needs to be done in your plan to address those issues and move on. Yeah, it doesn't want us to freeze. The freezing part is the part we build on top of it. Okay, the being afraid of fear.
Yeah. And we have something in my work called secondary fear. Like
I think it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's it. So it's great to understand that you have a right to feel fearful.
Yeah, and it's important. I think I heard Bruce Lipton once said that if we were born with no fear, we'd probably die in a few seconds.
Yeah. All the masters talk about
do
that.
Crazy shit and die, and that's it, because we're fearless.
Yeah, excellent. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to thank you very much for the first episode in English on my podcast. Thank you so much, Tovah.
תודה רבה, בכיף.
להתראות.
להתראות.